Welcome to episode 12 of 86,400 Stories. Today, we are documenting a journey that is personally very close to my heart. We talk about a lot of billionaires on this channel, but today is different. Today is about a man who changed the cultural and economic landscape of an entire continent. He gave millions of ordinary people who had never even dreamed of being inside an airplane, the dignity of flight. This is the story of a man who looked at an elitist industry and decided to break the gates wide open. He proved that the sky belongs to everyone, not just those with a gold card in their wallet. This is the story of Tony Fernandes. He is the living proof that a massive dream can start with the smallest of change, and that an outsider with an obsession can move mountains, or in this case, thousands of tons of aluminum through the sky. To understand how he pulled off the ultimate business gamble, you have to understand the roots of his hustle. Tony Fernandes was born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, on April 30th, 1964. His father was a physician from Goa, and his mother was of mixed Indian and Asian Portuguese descent. He did not grow up in the hangars of an airport or around the jargon of flight decks. Instead, as a young boy, he would follow his mother around as she hosted Tupperware parties. His mother, Tony Fernandes, was a force of nature. She was a legendary salesperson who knew how to turn a living room into a marketplace. Tony sat there on the rugs of various homes in Malaysia, watching her connect with people. He watched her build trust. He watched how she sold a dream of a better, more organized home. Most importantly, he watched how she handled objections with a smile and a story. He saw that business was not about the plastic containers. It was about the people using them. That living room was his first real boardroom, and it taught him more about marketing than any fancy business school ever could. At the young age of 12, Tony was sent across the world to study at Epsom College in England. It was a long way from the tropical warmth and the spicy air of Kuala Lumpur. Imagine a 12-year-old boy in a foreign land, surrounded by the cold grey skies of a British boarding school. It was a period of intense isolation, but it was also where his character was forged. He had to learn how to fit in, how to bridge the gap between his heritage and a new culture. He eventually matriculated to the London School of Economics and graduated with a degree in accounting. But his heart was never in the spreadsheets. He took the degree as a safety net, a promise to his parents, but his soul was vibrating to the rhythm of the music world. He knew he wanted to build something loud, something that moved people, literally and figuratively. He started his career in the mid-80s as an auditor for Richard Branson's Virgin Communications. This was a defining moment. He was watching the ultimate disruptor, Richard Branson, take on the giants with nothing but branding and a fearless attitude. Tony learned that you could be small, you could be an outsider, and you could still win if you had a better story. He eventually returned to Malaysia to become the youngest managing director at Warner Music Group. He rose to become the vice president for the entire Southeast Asian region. He was successful, he was comfortable, and he was powerful in the world of entertainment. But every time he traveled, he saw a problem. He saw the artists he worked with, the crew members, the ordinary people on the street, and he noticed a deep, systemic inequality in how they moved across the world. As he traveled the region, he saw that flying in Southeast Asia was strictly for the elite. It was a VIP club for politicians and corporate titans. If you were a factory worker in Penang, a teacher in Jakarta, or a small farmer in Thailand. The sky was literally out of reach. You were forced to take grueling 24-hour bus rides through dangerous jungle roads or crowded, unstable ferries across the ocean just to see your family for the holidays. Tony looked at the massive, sweating crowds at the bus terminals and realized the aviation experts were completely wrong. They thought the market for flying was small. Tony knew the market was everyone, but the price was just a barrier that needed to be dismantled. He obsessed over a single question: why couldn't everyone fly? Why was the sky a luxury when it should be a commodity? When Tony finally decided to start his own low-cost airline, the Malaysian government refused to issue him a new license. They wanted to protect their national carrier. They told him if he wanted to fly, he had to buy an airline that already existed. So he found AirAsia. It was a failing subsidiary of a government conglomerate. It had only 2 aging Boeing 737-300 jets, and it was bleeding cash every single hour of every single day. Most importantly, it came with a staggering 40 million ringgit in debt. That is over 11 million US dollars in liabilities. His friends thought he had lost his mind. Tony didn't flinch. He mortgaged his own home. He put his entire life savings on the line. And he bought the company for exactly 1 Malaysian Ringgit, which is about 26 cents in US currency. He didn't just buy a company, he bought a mountain of debt with no safety net. He was completely 100% all in. He took over the airline on September 8, 2001. Exactly 3 days later, the world changed forever. 9/11 happened. The global aviation industry went into a terminal tailspin. People were terrified of the sky. Major airlines were going bankrupt every single week. Every financial advisor Tony knew told him to walk away. They said he was finished before he even took off. But Tony saw what the experts missed. He knew that crisis creates a vacuum. Because the giants were grounded, the cost of leasing new planes dropped through the floor. Thousands of world-class pilots and crew members were suddenly looking for work. While the world was retreating, Tony Fernandes attacked. He leased planes for pennies on the dollar. He stripped away all the unnecessary frills like meals and assigned seating. And he launched fares for as low as 1 ringgit. His slogan became a mantra for millions. Now everyone can fly. The legacy airlines tried to crush him through price wars and political pressure, but they couldn't compete with his greatest weapon, naivety. Because he didn't come from the industry, he didn't know the rules he was supposedly breaking. He asked questions that seemed stupid to the experts. He asked, why does it take an hour to turn a plane around at the gate? The experts said it was impossible to do it faster. Tony pushed his team to do it in 25 minutes. By doing that, he maximized the time his planes were in the air. If the planes weren't flying, they weren't making money. He bypassed travel agents and moved everything to the internet when it was still considered risky. He wore a red baseball cap, he walked the aisles, he served drinks, and he carried baggage. He built a culture where the CEO was part of the crew. He didn't build a corporation. He built a family that was ready for a revolution. Today, AirAsia has carried hundreds of millions of people. Families that were once separated by geography and poverty are now connected by a 2-hour flight they can actually afford. Tony Fernandes proved that an auditor from a Tupperware selling household could dismantle a government-protected monopoly. He proved that you don't need permission to change the world. He turned 25 cents into a gateway for an entire continent. He proved that the only thing standing between you and the horizon is the courage to keep walking and the willingness to fly while others are afraid to leave the ground. So, what do we learn from Tony Fernandes? We learn that knowing too much can be your biggest liability. When you are an outsider, you see the gaps that the experts are too comfortable to notice. We learn that the best time to start is often when the world says it is the worst time in history. Crisis is just opportunity wearing a mask. Your disadvantages are your secret weapons. Your lack of experience is your greatest moat. If you have the hustle of a Tupperware salesman and the heart of a disruptor, the sky is not the limit, it is just the beginning. If this story gave you the spark you needed today, hit subscribe and join our community here at 86,400 stories. We believe deeply that possibility has no postcode. Tell me in the comments, would you have mortgaged your home to buy a company with $11 million in debt 3 days before 9/11? And remember, the pen is in your hand. Anything is possible.